everybody. We are back.
Welcome.
Yeah. So we're back with the Down Home Texas Small Business Show. I'm Tammy Fisher, enrolled agent,
Amanda
and
Adams, CPA.
that's Amanda Adams, CPA. And today we are going to be talking with you about kids and money.
Kids and money. Such an
Kids
important
and money.
topic.
Very important topic. And we have our friend who's been with us before, and we love her and adore her, the fabulous Dr. Esdale.
Hi.
Esdale. Yay.
I love and adore you both too, so I'm happy to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
We are
Thank
so
you for
glad to
coming
have
on.
you here.
Thanks
So
for having me.
let's dive in, shall we?
All right. So, can you two play guinea pigs with me if I ask you questions? Are you ready to share a little bit?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, um, part of my practice is I do financial therapy. And for years, I also did financial literacy, mostly with college kids. I know we're going to get to that at another point in time. And one thing that I see over and over is that we have a lot of parents that don't talk with their kids about money. Or if they're having conversations with their kids about money, it's not a positive thing. It's like, we have to get the cheapest thing, or maybe you're annoyed because the school clothes cost so much, right? And parents have their own baggage that they bring into this, which we'll talk about, that affects the way kids think about money, and then they grow up to be adults and have their own issues with money. So when I have clients in financial therapy and we're talking about them fixing their issues, we also include what happens with the kids. How are you making sure that your kids don't end up in the same situation as you? So I'm super excited to talk about this today. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So let me ask: what are the family discussions about money like for the two of you? What happens in your houses with money?
Ooh, I have older kids, so I feel like we are pretty open about money. Um, we, my husband and I both grew up pretty poor.
Okay.
And so we did not understand how to pay bills on time. We did not understand late fees and, oh my goodness, overdraft fees. When we were first together, when we first became adults, opened a bank account, those kind of things. So those are things that we're pretty open about and have kind of warned our kids. Credit cards, credit card fees, and interest, and stuff like that. So we're at this stage right now. We have an almost 20-year-old, 18-year-old, and an almost 15-year-old. And so we're opening bank accounts and credit cards and teaching how to manage their money. Our 14-year-old worked this summer and how to save for the things she wants. And, she was able to buy that $200 pair of shoes that mom would not buy her. So, I mean, I feel like we don't have the best habits, but we've started them a little better than what we were.
Okay. Did your parents talk with you about money, or did your husband's parents talk about money? So what messages did you get about money in your household as a kid? You said you grew up poor.
We have no money. There's no
Okay.
money.
Okay. And that was just repeated over and over and illustrated because you didn't get the things that you wanted, or maybe even the things that you needed.
The things that we needed. I mean, when I say poor, we had food stamps, and I
Mhm.
mean, the best that we learned how to manage money was with food stamps. That's how you eat. So, like, I did kind of learn how to manage it from that, but no money.
So, Tammy, I'll come to you in just a second, but I'll just say, like,
Sure.
in the financial therapy world, there's some really smart people that have spent years thinking about, like, how all of these things affect you. And having no money is a trauma, right? We know that there are a lot of things that can cause trauma in childhood. And we look at what are called financial flashpoints. So when I work with clients to try to figure out why they're struggling with money, I ask them, were there financial flashpoints for you? Or was there just this kind of ongoing hump, constantly feeling like there's never enough, the refrigerator is going to be empty, you're not going to have clothes for school, the things that I grew up really poor too, but the things that many of our peers were not worried about because they were in a household where they had plenty of money. And that tends to trickle into how we think about money and how we talk to our kids. So it's very interesting that you mentioned we've warned them about all the bad things that can happen to you if you don't do things right with money. Have you talked about the good things that can happen if you do things right with money?
I mean, you get to buy what you want. Obviously, my daughter got the $200 pair of shoes. Um, probably not nearly as much as we've droned on about the bad things.
And this is no shame, right? Because tends to be the things that we focus on, right? We want to make sure that our kids don't make the same mistakes as us, but there's something to be said for talking about how money can give you freedom, financial freedom. Education also can give you freedom, right? We know that. So
Okay, so that's not entirely true. Our
okay.
18-year-old is starting a bit he's taking over his dad's business. And so, our 18-year-old has already learned, the financial freedom and working for himself and not. So I can't necessarily say that, but I forget those things. I only look at the negative. Sorry.
No, but that's a wonderful illustration that your kids had through their lives, is seeing dad has his own business. What does that provide for the family, but also for him? The mental health benefits of being able to work for yourself. Now, we know there's negatives there too, but obviously that's a strong enough example that your son said, this is what I want to do. This makes sense for me and makes sense for my life. So kudos. That's a good thing.
Yay. Okay,
Yay.
Tammy, I want to be off the hot seat.
Okay, Tammy, tell me, you've got a wide range of ages of kiddos in your
Yeah.
household
Yeah.
and a lot going on. So tell me about financial discussions in your house.
Okay. Um, okay. Presently, we have, presently, we have one who just went off to college. We have a soon to be 12-year-old, and then we have one who's 6. I want to say that we don't really talk a lot about money because, I mean, I don't want this to sound bad. We don't talk a lot about money because we don't really have to. And I don't want that to sound like hoity-toity, This is uh, that I want to say. I want to clarify that. Jimmy and I both grew up poor with nothing. Our parents had nothing. Um, we the our first time around parenting, a lot of people don't know about this. We are reparenting, and we've got second set of kids. Okay, so the first time around, we were like Amanda and her husband. We came up mouth to mouth, paycheck to paycheck, in debt, trying to learn how to do things the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And then when we got to a certain age and learned about money and credit and finances, dug ourselves out of a hole
Mm-hmm.
and realized that we didn't want to do that anymore and get back in it. So we started living a life beneath our means.
Okay.
And we started doing that probably 20-25 years ago. So because of that, we lived very comfortably. And the kids that we're raising now don't want for things the way our
The older kids.
first round of kids did. But that said, when they do have money, which they do get their own, like they get birthday money or Christmas money or whatever, they tend to be savers, which is kind of surprising. So especially like the oldest, she just went off to college with a very nicely padded bank account.
Okay.
Which, I mean, for a lot of kids her age, they're spenders, and they just, they want this and they want that. And we would tease her about being, a gremlin in the house. Oh, it's my money, don't take it, because she just almost won't spend a dollar. It has to be something that she really feels is important enough to spend on. And then our 12-year-old, he has a little safe in his room. He asked for it. Can I have a safe with a key? And he keeps his Christmas money and birthday money in it. And every now and then he'll break it out and he'll spend something. And every now and then he broke his Nintendo Switch. I think he did something. He left it outside and it got rained on or something and it got ruined. And he wanted a new one. And we told him, hey, you know what? This is on you. So if you want a new one, it's on you to be able to pay for it. And so he broke open his safe and he bought himself, the new thing. So that's where our mindset is to teach them to be responsible for their own consequences with money. But at the same time, we kind of have a feeling, we grew up without things and we don't want to have them be without.
Yeah. That's totally understandable. So your daughter has what we would call money vigilance, and
Yeah.
at some point she experienced something where she decided like she wants to save. Was she
Yeah.
part of the poor days? Did she experience that?
Before she came here to us. Yeah.
Okay. So, to her, there's that feeling inside her. I've got to save. I got to save. And I will say that that's a good thing most of the time, but sometimes it can cause problems because you have folks that save and save and save and they never spend anything on themselves. If they get in a relationship and their partner says, "Hey, we'd like to go on vacation." Yeah. I had a client once
Yeah.
that was like, why don't we visit your family in California for our honeymoon and stay with them so we can save money? And I was like, it's your honeymoon. You can spend money on your honeymoon, right? And her husband was like,
Yeah.
come on, and they did. They had the money. Like, we
Yes.
can take a real honeymoon. So that money vigilance is
Yes.
a good thing, but sometimes can turn a little negative. What do you think, Amanda?
Uh-huh.
Tell me.
Okay, so I told you, my husband and I both grew up pretty poor. And I want to tell you, this year is the first year we've ever taken a vacation, like an
Oh my goodness.
actual vacation. And I mean, like, not going to visit family for vacation.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first year, and we've been married for a lot of years. Um, it's just wild to me how we grew up a lot the same. I am a saver, and my husband is a spender.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so, where he didn't have the things he wanted, he gets those now. And he
Yeah.
doesn't overspend. He doesn't put us in the hole. He's not like, it's not detrimental. But I'm the opposite. And I will buy for everybody but myself. So like you're talking
Mm.
about these things
Yeah.
and I'm going, yeah, okay, there's some things I should
Yeah.
probably dig in with Michaele about.
Yeah. We do that. We do some of that too. Like, here's an example. I wanted to do some landscaping around the house,
Mhm.
and of course, my husband comes up and says, "Oh, we can do that ourselves. We can just buy the rock, and I can dig it all out, and all that." And I'm like, "Honey, I
Yeah.
don't want to do that. I don't want to spend my weekends working on landscaping, and I don't want you to have to. And we can afford to pay somebody to do it,
Yeah. Yeah.
But his mindset is still, oh, let's don't spend that money.
Yep.
We can do that work ourselves. So we still go back and forth about stuff like that.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that until, like you said, until it starts to cause a problem in what
Mm-hmm.
you know the two of you want to do. I will also say sometimes it is an issue if you don't want to spend any money on yourself, because there's
Right.
a little bit of a mantra that gets created in your head that I don't deserve to have nice things, or I don't deserve to have new things. And you don't want to pass that on to, so getting back to the kids, you don't want to pass that on to the kids. So it's a fine line, right? Of I need everything new and expensive and whatever everyone else has, and I don't deserve to have, so kids that get hand me down clothes all the time, there's a real psychological cost to saying you're just going to have everything your
Yeah.
brother had, because
Yeah.
those folks grow up and they feel like, well, I don't deserve to have something new because I just always got the hand me
Right.
downs. I'm not saying don't use hand me downs, but there is something to be said for saying, okay, we're doing this now, but every once in a while we're going to go and we're going to get
Yeah.
you new things, right?
Mhm.
Because you
Yeah.
deserve to have new things. You deserve good things like everyone else in the family.
Do
So,
just but here I have a question. But
yeah.
could it happen the opposite? So somebody who's in that situation grow up and then become a person who is a shopaholic?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's kind of like what Amanda was saying about her husband. So a lot of times what happens, and this is when I work with people that are overspenders, they'll say to me, I didn't get a lot of things when I was a kid. Now that I'm
Yeah.
quote unquote making good money, I should be able to spend $60 at Target anytime I want, or $100 on
Anytime I
Amazon
want.
anytime I want. And then that snowballs, right? Because we know how quickly
Mhm.
those things can add up, and someone can end up, without really being a shopaholic, they can end up having debt issues, especially if they were never taught to manage money. They just look at that number, the salary, and they say, this is way more than my parents ever made, which is most of us, right? This is way more than my parents ever made. I can afford these things, without really understanding whether they can afford those things.
Okay,
Um,
I have a
yeah,
question about that.
yeah, yeah.
Well, or kind of a comment about that. So, how do we teach our kids that they can't compare today to 50 years ago because of inflation and because like
That's a
it
good
is
question.
such a difference in what the purchasing
Yeah.
power is.
Yeah, so I'm gonna pick on Tammy just a tiny bit when you said, we haven't had to have those discussions with our kids. And this goes to the idea, those of us that grew up poor, we were used to money discussions being just fraught and terrible, right? Everything about it was just awful. We didn't want to have those discussions because it was always a gut clenching type of moment, right? I remember once I really wanted to take this trip to Washington, D.C. with our school, and it was $1,000, which was a lot in like 1993 or whenever. And I went to my mom and I was like, I really want to take this trip. And she basically was pretty mean about it. Like, we don't have this money. Like, we almost lost our house at one point in time. Like, we're behind on the mortgage. How could you ask me this? And I'm like, because I'm in eighth grade and I really want to go on this trip with my friends, right? So for me and for a lot of us, those discussions were never good. And I think the idea is we have to reframe this as, this is just part of being an adult. Like, learning how to drive is part of being an adult, learning how to cook, learning how to do the laundry. You are not a complete adult until you have learned something about finances, until you are at least partially financially literate. So, back to the question, Amanda, I think we start early, right? Your kids are 5, 6 years old. When you're at the grocery store, you can make it into a game. You talked about food stamps and figuring that out. You know that this lesson actually works, right? But you don't
Mhm.
have to make it negative. You say, okay, we're going to play a little game today. What we do in this family to be able to make sure that we have all the resources we need, and you don't have to make it negative. You can just say, you know, mom and dad, we make plenty of money to support ourselves, so you don't have to worry about that. But I want to show you how we make sure that we don't spend too much or spend too little. So let's go to the grocery store, and you have your list and you say, here's our list. We have this much to spend. And this really depends on the kid, how good they are with numbers. They say by 8 that kids are really able to do this. And then you make it into a game. Okay, do we want this or that, right? Maybe we get the store brand for this because we'd rather get the more expensive brand for this. It tastes better, right?
Mhm.
And so now we're making a trade off between taste and price, and oh, we don't care about that, And so making it a game to stay within that budget. And you can do that with anything. You can say, this month we have a budget of $500 to go out to eat. Well, then we have to choose. That includes all of our going to McDonald's to get a Happy Meal plus all these other things. And so, you have a chart of things that we get to do, and we can pick, we can decide. That's our choice as we make the budget, but we got to stay within the budget.
I love that. That's a great idea. My boys pack their lunches for school,
Oh,
I could
okay.
do that. I could give, well, I can't give the little one because anyway, but obviously,
Yeah.
but with my 12-year-old, I could give him a budget for his lunchbox
Yeah.
snacks and just
Yeah.
tell him, here, you can shop for your lunchbox snacks, but you only have X amount of dollars for the week.
Yeah.
So choose wisely and let
Yeah.
him do it. He's a
And
math, he loves math. It's one of his favorite subjects. So
and this gives him a
it's a
practical
great idea.
application for it, right? And
Yeah.
also just like there's something kids especially that age. So my stepson is 12. He has a lot of anxiety about money from his mother. And um we've had to have discussions with him about things like if we go out to eat, he wants to look at the receipt because he's really worried about how much it costs. And finally I just
Oh,
said, we can afford this, right? It's okay. You don't have to worry about that. But we've started talking with him about like when we went on vacation, I said, okay, we went on vacation. As soon as we got back, I said, okay, I just paid off the credit card. Everything's all set. Vacation is paid for. But now for a month, we're going to chill out with the spending. We're going to not do X, Y, and Z. We're not going to go out to eat. We're not going to do, I named a couple of things, right? Just because we want to replenish what's in our savings. And so we had a discussion about what does that mean? And it makes him feel like he's taking part in adult decisions. And I have a feeling that your 12-year-old would feel the same way.
mm-hmm.
Oh, now I'm part of like the decisions of the household and I can help. I can help, but I'm not
Yeah.
worried because mom hasn't made it into a thing that I should be worried about. It's a thing that I'm just helping a task to, to help
Mm-hmm.
our household run. And that's a fine line because some kids can develop that anxiety. So it's all about your delivery of
Yes.
that task. Do your kids either of you do your kids have anxiety about money? Do they talk about being worried other than the vigilance?
My oldest, maybe. But let me tell you, when I say he's worried about money, he set up a bank account that he has to have a minimum balance of $1,000.
Good for him.
Wow.
So, yeah, he worries when he starts getting too low in that because his zero balance is $1,000. He knows.
Most families don't have that saved, right? Like that's amazing.
So when I say no, it's really because I know that there's still wiggle room there. But I mean, I have heard him go, well, yeah, like I can't do that until I get paid because I'm too low already. Which I think are mature conversations.
Hmm.
I hope.
Hmm.
Um, but I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay.
Bailey.
Yeah, it's okay.
Do you think that kids do better or learn better financial literacy from being given money or earning money? Or is there a difference?
Oh, this is the eternal question. So the social sciences research would say that when someone is quote unquote endowed with money, they take more risks and they don't kind of care as much about it, right? They're quicker to spend. And we also know that what is it, like 75% of generational wealth is spent within one generation. We know that from our tax work. When people want to leave all this money to their kids, it's like it's going to be gone in one generation anyway. So you may want to do something else with it.
Mhm.
um Younger kids, I think if we talk, there's a little bit of a difference here because younger kids don't necessarily have a way to earn money unless they're doing some light chores. And I think again we have to straddle that fine line between you have to do chores to be in this household and understanding like my job as a parent is to give you food, shelter, clothing, love, all of those things, because we all know that situation of feeling like I have to work for my place in the family, and that's not necessarily a good thing. So I think it's really a mix of both, right? Like you're going to get gifts, on your birthday and things like that. And that's for you to kind of do what you want with. And I love, the way that Tammy's kids have hidden their money away. They've decided to save it, but that's for special things, right? But, if you're thinking about this idea of maybe I give you an allowance for doing something extra, right? Um, yeah, I think it depends on the kid. So I know that's really not the greatest answer, but it depends on the kid because different kids are motivated by different things, and you just kind of have to have some trial and error, and also have a discussion when they're old enough to understand and say like, look, the reason why we want you to have an allowance, mom and dad can pay for anything that we want to pay for you as long as it's within our budget, but the allowance is for you to really start thinking about how you make financial choices. It's to help you grow and help you mature. It's not because you're, working around the house and we couldn't do these things ourselves. So I feel like there's I don't know. What do you guys think? I'm going to push it back to you and see what you think.
I
Uh,
agree. It depends on your kid. It depends on your kid because all
yeah,
minds are different.
yeah, I think so too. I mean, we tried the allowance thing, and it worked for a short period of time,
Yeah.
and then it was like, then it was again, you forgot to take out the trash. Oh well, so it in the end it just was just do your chores. Just do your chores, please. So it depends on the kid. Some kids are motivated by money, and
Yeah.
so they want to earn it, so they'll do chores for an allowance. And then some kids just, some kids aren't. So
Yeah. And I think there's a lesson there too. There's all these gender differences obviously with the chores we ask our kids to do and the chores
mhm,
that women, for example, or young girls feel like they have to do. And this spills over into when, people are adults. And so I think I like separating allowance and money and things like that from chores
yeah,
because I feel like kids should know like these are just things you have to do when you move out. And we'll talk about
mhm,
college kids later, but when you move out, you're going to have to take out the trash, right? You're going to have, unless you're
yes,
fabulously wealthy and you have a butler and a maid, you're going to have to do these things, and this is part of running a household. And as you get a little bit older, you got to help us a little bit, right? Because
mhm,
we work as a family. We're all rowing in the same direction as a family, so we need your help.
mhm,
There was an interesting thing about all the mental labor that women do when you think about reordering things in your household, like toilet paper, paper towels,
yeah,
and I saw someone saying like a good suggestion is to actually take your kids around and say, okay, the soap dispenser doesn't get refilled on its own. What do we have? How does this happen? Right? We have to actually order the soap. Put it into or go to the store, put it into the storage closet, and then when the dispenser's empty, someone, probably mom, has to cue and say now it's time to fill it, right? Or put more toilet paper under the counter so you're not stuck on the toilet with no toilet paper, right? So that is something that it's a financial lesson in talking about how much things cost, but it's also a lesson in how the household runs, and how these things just don't magically appear, right? They
yeah,
seem like they do, but they don't magically appear.
yeah.
um, I'm pursuing that with some luck, not a lot of luck.
What do what do you think about rewarding good grades with money?
Ooh, that's a tough one. 10 years ago, I would have told you yes, it's a good reward, but then what? I think it's a the research shows that telling someone you're smart, for example, is not great. Telling
Mhm,
someone, look at this effort that you put in, I'm really proud of you, is a lot better. So I'm not sure what rewarding good grades with money does. I think again it depends on the kid.
yeah,
We tend to just do, we're going to take you out to dinner and we're going to celebrate, and
yeah.
you had a really good semester, you worked really hard, we're going to celebrate together, right, rather than money. Do you
Mhm.
guys reward good grades? Did you reward good grades?
Not with money. No,
Okay, what did
we
you
don't
do?
reward. Well, we'll do something like that. Like we'll
Yeah.
go out for ice cream, or we'll do something like
Yeah.
that. And our philosophy is more of, if you worked your hardest and you gave it your best effort, even if you didn't make an A, if you
Yeah.
got a C, but it was your best effort,
Yeah.
we're good with that.
Yeah.
We're okay with that, and when we'll help you if you need to bring it up. But um, but we're not the people that are like, oh, you got to get an A, you got to make, you got to make straight A's. So, because I think there's some danger in that. So.
Yeah, I mean, it inherently is like, unless you're good enough to make A's, you don't get that top amount. I knew people who were like, I get $20 for an A and $15 for a B,
right.
and whatever, and I'm not sure that's the best.
There can be some anxiety. There can be some anxiety causing elements in that with kids as well. So
yeah.
So we didn't want to go in that territory. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm guessing we're maybe getting to end of time here. I don't know.
Yes. So
Okay.
we are. However, we are going to have a second and maybe even a third episode with Miss Michaele, Dr. Esdale. It's so weird to say Dr. Esdale because I'm so used to calling you Michaele. We are going to have more episodes with Michaele because she has such amazing insights. The next one that we're going to be doing is talking about money and sending your kid off to college. It's that time of year, so it's very, very on the top of our minds, and we want to talk about it.
Cool. Yeah, we do. Yeah. In the meantime, Michaele, tell people how to contact you if they want to visit with you about their families.
Yeah. So my company is called Fintuition Advising, and I'm at Fintuition Advising. Fintuition, your financial intuition. Fintuition Advising on Instagram, and I post a lot of content there pretty much daily. This type of content. I will just say, kind of as a closing, talking about money with your kids, with your younger kids. Just do it. Just have those conversations. And also remember that the conversations that you're having with your spouse or your partner or on the phone with your parents or your friends, they pick up on that. They pick up on the vibes. They pick up on vibes when you're worried. We know that kids they're sponges. They feel all those things. And so if you feel that your kids are developing anxiety because of uncertainty, it's better to share more than to share less. And don't be afraid, like, oh, my kid's going to go to school and tell everybody how much money I make. Maybe, but who cares? Like, what you're really worried about is your kids understanding, kind of the position that you're in. And in the next episode, we'll talk about, I didn't answer your question about inflation, but we'll talk about how to keep your kids realistic about what their career is going to be and what kind of life that's going to afford them, because that's a big part of these discussions.
Yeah, I want to talk about that. All right. So y'all be sure and tune in for part 2, and we thank you, Michaele, and we will see y'all next time on the Down Home Texas Small Business Show.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.